Hey everyone, I'm Carlos. I'm one of the lead developers here
And I'm Eric. I am the creator and the lead producer.
of Dark Conquest. Now, I know you guys have a couple questions as far as how this is going to go about and what exactly is this game about? Eric, if you wouldn't mind telling us, what exactly is Dark Conquest?
Well, Dark Conquest is actually, asking what it is about is kind of a loaded gun because what it is it's a world that is set in a variety of different time frames and eras. So depending on what year and what the major event that's happening at the moment is will determine what exactly the storyline is. Now, for the genre itself, the world itself, it's a sci-fi fantasy. So it's set in our distant future. It wouldn't be uncommon to see, different creatures towing around with energy shields, spacecraft, and laser guns, and all that fun stuff.
Alright. Awesome. So that's a really good little insight for some of the newer people that don't really know what this game is. Now, what influences gave you the idea to design a game of this magnitude?
Well, at the age of 14, I started getting into tabletop gaming. Went into this nice little shop when I was living in Indiana, and a bunch of people there were playing Dungeons and Dragons. It was the 3.5 edition, and I got really into it. But I always figured and thought there needed to be something more. The almost infinite leveling, the almost infinite amount of health and defense was just starting to get a little tiring. It started losing its tactical aspect to me. So I decided that what I wanted to do is create a sci-fi world where I would meld, the familiarity of the fantasy world and launch them into the future. So imagine orcs and minotaurs with machine guns and laser guns, or even seeing a centaur with like a laser spear or something. That was one of the biggest factors into me creating this game, was seeing a different world. And at the same time, as I said, I was kind of getting tired of the infinite health, the near godlike status that characters were able to obtain. And as much as I love Dungeons and Dragons, I wanted to change pace. I wanted something that's more tactical.
Interesting. So I understand from the notes and everything that we've talked about, you're going to be able to customize some of the items of the game as far as your character and weaponry.
Yes, part of the character creation process, you're going to be able to create your own alien race. So instead of just being stuck with the core races that we provide to you, we'll actually give you an option to sit there and make your own race. We'll allow you, give you an X amount of points to select racial abilities and whatnot. Weapons, you could also start off with your basic weapon in this game. The main loot that you'll be finding are mods. These mods go from attachments to your weapon to mods that will change what type of damage is being output, like fire, electric, ice, etc. So that also helps keep the fantasy side of things. So when you're shooting your opponent and all of a sudden they freeze into a giant ice sculpture, that's part of the mods that you put into your weapon. And at the same time, that's something that is reminiscent to casting an ice spell in Dungeons and Dragons or any of your tabletop, role-playing games.
So put in other words, I can have a samurai with a rifle, if I so wanted.
If you so wanted, yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I know a lot of players are going to like that. Well, I guess to maybe push this off and end this small blog, how far are we along at this point?
Well, in the development process, we are actually near completion of our first tabletop game. We have mostly the skeleton written out and a lot of filler details in there. So at this point in time, I'm refining the combat system, trying to figure out what I want to do about initiative, because that's always a big issue in many games, and that's a make or break point in the combat, because a lot of these games and GMs tend to be very combat focused. And as soon as I could balance that out, balance out the leveling and the gainage from stamina all the way up to health, so that by the end of the game you're not looking at 1,000,000 or so health, but maybe a small chunk of 100 or so that you have to actually sit there and think about what you're doing per each move and for every action that you take in combat. So as soon as I can hash out the details on finishing out the combat and leveling, then from that point on, it's just artwork and filler information.
Ah, sounds good. Sounds good. Now I know one last question. I know a lot of people are going to be wondering this. I know everyone doesn't have exactly 2, 3, 4 hours to play at a time. About how long would it take for an average game?
An average game will vary depending on how lucky you are with dice rolls, how well your team works together, should you be working with a group of people or not, and how many fights or how often do you need to be, it all depends on the players and the GM, really. So if you're at a moment where you're role-playing and the role-playing scene takes far longer than what it should be taking, sometimes it could take an hour to get through a session, sometimes it might take 5, 6, or 7. But, we're also keeping the gamers on the go in mind. We're going to be developing a mobile app on top of this game that players will be able to purchase for a very small fee. I'm figuring maybe $1 to $2. And this will be a tool that will allow GMs to create campaigns using our rule sets and our guides, and allow them to connect with other players via mobile apps or tablets and all that fun stuff, and even go as far as even a PC app if we can find a way to integrate it into the system.
Oh, nice. Are we going to be seeing this on Android and iPhone, I would assume?
Yeah, we'll be seeing it on all the major cell phones and smart pads and whatnot. We'll also be trying to release one for the Windows Phone, and we're going to try to look into seeing what we could do about releasing one for the up-and-coming Android or Amazon phones that will be coming out. So we're trying to expand and keep current with our technology, but try to keep the same nostalgic feeling that most tabletop gamers have. When you think tabletop gaming, you don't necessarily think technology like smartphones and tablets. Most people, especially old school gamers, they tend to think about getting together with a group of friends and sitting there taking maybe half the day to roll up a character, and from there on out, just rolling some good old-fashioned dice and trying to keep things in track of mentally through pencil and paper, or even typing it out as they go so they can figure out what happened last. So I want to make sure that the core players of this game world and our product is going to be able to sit here and keep that nostalgic feel.
Alright, well, thanks for all the great information here. And everyone, don't forget to like, add, and subscribe to us. Check out our YouTube and our Facebook. And don't forget to join the revolution for evolution. Thank you.
Have a great day.